Hello, welcome to WorleyTutorials.com. My name is Zach, and in this video we're going to be talking about adjustment layers in Photoshop CS6. So we just talked about layers and how we can organize them. In this case, I'm going to be talking about adjustment layers. Now they're different because the adjustment layers affect all the layers underneath it. So if I go down to the very bottom here, you got a circle with it's like half white and half black type of circle. You click on that and you have kind of a quick menu to get all of your different adjustment layers. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I am going to be talking about some of the more important ones and the ones that you're probably going to use quite a bit. The other option is, by default, if you have your workspace set at Essentials, then you're going to have the adjustment layers up here as well. Once you get more used to what these titles are, then you can just simply come up here and click on them. But if you don't know, then you just hover over it for a second and it'll tell you that's brightness and contrast, this is levels, curves, exposure, so on and so forth. Now all of these things are covered in Camera Raw in a little bit more detail, but here you can do multiple adjustments on multiple different layers. So that's why it's called adjustment layer. So in this case, I'm going to just open up one of these and say brightness and contrast. And you'll see that what it has is, this is the adjustment itself in your layers, and this is the mask. I'm going to be talking about masks fairly quickly, but later in the series. And the reason is they're really important. Basically what that means is that you can have the adjustment in one place but not in the other with the same adjustment. So stay tuned and I'll talk about masks. Here I can click on the adjustment and I have my brightness slider. I can bring up the brightness or lower the brightness, and the contrast slider. Again, what exactly these do, you can go and watch Camera Raw and it's going to tell you there. The next one is levels. Now levels I do need to explain a little bit. What this means is you have these numbers. You got 0, 1, and 255. In the black and white spectrum, black is 0, white is 255. And so gray is going to be right in the middle of the two. So what we can do is we can tell the computer anything that is from this value to be now this value. Okay, so we're now going to be adjusting, and everything from here over, which this used to be gray in this area, is now considered to be more of a light. A better way to explain this is if I take this slider and I move it all the way this way, okay, what that is saying is from value 49 to 0 is considered 0. So same thing on this side. If I drag it in, it's going to brighten it up. So anything that used to be this kind of gray is now considered white. So anything from 160 up to 255 is now considered white pixels. What does this mean, and how do I use this tool? What this means is, what you can do is, it's sort of like contrast, brightness and contrast, but you have more control. So and it's much more sensitive because it deals with the actual pixels rather than just an overall image. So if I bring this down, it's going to subtly bring up the brightness, and if I bring this up, it's going to bring it to a little bit dark. Now what this can also do is, if you have let's say you have an image that is really, really bright and there are no darks in it, so your histogram right here is going to have like nothing on this side, and then finally it's going to start peaking in this area. A good practice is to take this black slider and put it right at the beginning of your histogram peak, and what that's going to tell you is it's going to give you at least some black pixels in there somewhere. So again, depending on the image, go ahead and import it and play around with the levels and see what it does for you. The next one, curves. I'm actually going to skip this one because I talked about it in Camera Raw. So go ahead and check that out. And you can kind of see how the RGB and the red, green, blue, and all that kind of stuff works. Next, exposure. Same thing. I talked about it in Camera Raw. It basically just brings up the brightness and the darkness of the image. Vibrance, same thing. Go and check out Camera Raw. Now, the difference between Camera Raw and here is that you can add multiple instances of the same thing. So I'm going to bring the vibrance down just a little bit, and then I'm going to go over here and click on vibrance again. You can see vibrance 2, and I'm going to boost the saturation. So you get just a different kind of look than one single adjustment. And of course, you can make it to where it's just a clipping mask and it's dealing with only the layer directly below it. And then you can also mask out these things. So I'm going to show you how to mask out really quick with these adjustment layers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put vibrance in there. I'm going to bring down the saturation quite a bit. Actually, I'm going to even bring down the regular saturation. So it's almost black and white. And then I'm going to get my mask tool. Masks only work in black and white. Okay, black, white, grayscale. So if I have my black color selected here and I get a paintbrush, what I'm going to be doing is painting black in this mask right here. So when I do that, it's going to tell the computer anywhere in this area I don't want the saturation to work. Okay, everywhere that it's white, I want it to work. Everywhere that it's black, I do not want it to work. So here's a preview of what our mask looks like. And if I take it back to the image, you can see that, here, I'll just bring this back into color. And you can see that I painted black in there. And it has a little bit of a feather. And if I wanted to bring the hardness up of that, I could, and make it really cool to where it's like just the color is in the image itself, and everything else in black and white. So that is, again, the very basics of the adjustment layers. You can go through here and kind of play around with more of these, such as like the hue and saturation. If you want to change the hue, it'll just change the color. You can boost the saturation, and you can bring down the brightness, the lightness, or the darkness of it. Now, one option here is colorize, and this is how you can kind of make an old school vintage type of look. So if you bring it into kind of the yellow a little bit, kind of make it more of a brown, so you can get this really old school looking, not quite black and white type of look. So colorize is used quite a bit. Once you do that, though, it does take everything and it makes it all that same color. So there you go. Adjustment layers. If you have any questions on this, please contact me at worleytutorials.com on the Connect page. And you can also post down below, and obviously you can find me on Facebook and on Twitter at Worley Tuts. So /Worley Tuts.